With Saiyan Day coming to a close, let's take a look at the top 10 TURs. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are revisiting our tier list of the top 10 Dokkan Fest TURs. Now, it's been a minute since we've taken a look here. In fact, I think the last time was in January after the release of the Daima Goku and Glorio, and a lot has changed for TURs in the 10th anniversary meta. So in this video, we're going to do our best to rank them in two specific categories, right? Our long form category and our short form category. We started this trend with the LR tier list, where we had one tier list for those that are designed more for long events, as our red zones are now going to 10, 15, sometimes even 20 turns. And then we have a separate tier list designed for battle-hardened formidable foes, because the type of units you want to use in those fights are drastically different than the types of units that are effective in the red zones. Now, I won't be considering Festival of Battles in this, but I will acknowledge units here in the long form tier list that do well in there. It won't be all, but there is some that we want to make special note of. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump on in. So, reminder that when we rank our units, we look at the three following categories. Number one, consistency. What is the unit's function? What is their job? Do they do it? Can they do it? Do they do it well? And do they do it often? Then we look at versatility. How often are they doing what they do, and how many different teams can they do it on, right? It's really more about where they can be utilized on certain teams, right? Even if they can go on a certain team, do they mesh well with that team? If they're causing problems for that team, then obviously that then they're going to lose some points there. And then finally, we look at power. This can come in the form of both offense and defense, right? Is a unit's power so overwhelming that it forgives any other possible issues, right? Does the unit's attack power eclipse its other stats more so much that you needn't worry about their defense, right? Or on the opposite end, is their defense so great that it doesn't really matter if they're able to attack or not, because their function is to consistently tank hits. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's start with our long form tier list. So this is our previous tier list. As you guys know, what we like to do here is kind of add and adjust units based on the previous tier list to see how the lists evolve. I feel like doing it this way allows players to kind of see how much the meta is shifting as it's shifting, but also it's so people don't really forget units are still usable. We often find ourselves as a community looking at these tier lists and going, well, they're in the top 10, they're good, everybody else sucks. And that's not what I like to promote here. So let's go ahead and let's start with the earliest easy A's on this list. So you will notice difference from last time, I did remove the super easy A's. After careful consideration, it feels like to me that some of the super easy A's probably belong more in the honorable mentions category. Not to say that they aren't good, but oftentimes they are the last units you are looking at to slot into a team. Not to say that some of these aren't good, but I do think it really muddies the waters in terms of what we're looking at for TUR. So I think in terms of super easy A's, it might just be better to rank them separately than with the Dokkan Fest TURs. I do think because of how teams work, though, the easy A's are still viable to be recognized on the list, because oftentimes they are designed to work in tandem with their Dokkan Fest counterparts. So I think it's probably pretty, it's probably good to acknowledge them there. So let's go ahead and let's start with the earliest Dokkan Fest easy A's that arrived. That is the Goku and Vegeta. Honestly, these two get ranked together because they fulfill the same roles within their team, so they'll be in the same spot no matter where we put them. Consistency, they both hit it in spades, right? Their job is to be on a team, their job is to rainbow orb change, their job is to get that offense and that defense on rainbow orb change, and they do it well pretty much on any team you can put them in. Obviously, they work better when around other Giant 8 Power or GT Heroes characters, but they still work just as well on some of the top teams in Dokkan currently, right? Like, you think the 220% under the Vegito, like the Goku is on that team. He actually works really well on that team, provides a little extra orb changing for the team, which is really, really nice since that team is very LR heavy. So they are consistent. Of course, with being orb changes comes those slight issues of consistency, right? Sometimes you just don't get the orb changing that you need. It happens, right? So for that, we can't give them a full 100 points on consistency, right? But we will ding them a little on that. Versatility. As I mentioned, any team you can slot a Super Saiyan, any team you can slot a Goku, any team you can slot a Vegeta, any team you can slot, right, GT Heroes, or more specifically, they really work well on Giant 8 Power, right? There are a lot of good teams that they can work well on, and they really only need one or two other units to fulfill their conditions, so it's very, very easy to pull off. So they are very versatile. Now, power. This is where it comes, their orb changing comes into play, right? Their power is dependent on orbs. The more orbs you get, the better they're going to look, but they're not always going to get those orbs, right? And so we have to acknowledge that, you know, on average, you're probably going to be seeing anywhere between 7 and 10 orbs, which is still pretty good, right? For Vegeta, that's throwing out 30 to 35. For Goku, that's throwing out a little just under 30. Which is still pretty good for the TURs that they are. So their power is decent, right? So they're nothing too crazy, but they are good EZAs. They're exactly what they should have been on release, is what I will say. So given that, I actually think that I would rank these guys at... I actually think that these guys are probably right around here at number 8, and this actually shifts this whole list down a little bit. We'll just drop him here. Okay, and so that does shift this down a little bit. I think both of them are pretty comfortable here at number 8. Yeah. All right. And so next, that brings us to the Daima Vegeta. Now, I know this sounds crazy, what I'm about to say, but hear me out. Okay. Consistency. The guy is consistent. All right. He is slot 1, and he does what he needs to do in slot 1 pretty much any which way he needs to. Certain fights, not every fight, certain fights can provide him a little bit of slot 1 trouble, but once he gets fully built up, it becomes a non-issue for him. And pretty much the only major fight that he has difficulty in is probably STR Jiren. That's pretty much it, and it's really only if he loses all of his stacks, which can happen. So in terms of consistency, I give him the points, but I also ding him, because if he gets hit, right, if he gets sealed, right, if he gets stunned, if he gets locked off rotation, he can end up in some very big trouble when he comes back around. Not that these things happen often, but it is worth noting. Versatility, he is very versatile. He really doesn't have any conditions to do what he needs to do other than being in slot 1. He does that job very well, and he can pretty much fit onto any team that allows for the unit, the characters on his category. So he's got the points and versatility. Power, a little low on the power. So I definitely going to give him a ding there, because he's not you know, he's not crazy offensive. His defense, while great, is nothing to write home about. So I would probably put him, I would still put him above the orb changers, probably right here at number 6, which is going to move the rest of this list down and bump this guy off right to right about here. And so next, that brings us to the Path to Power Kid Goku. This guy is incredible, right? So he is actually doing things that he's everything he was before, but now for the current meta, and that actually in of itself is enough to drop him right up here at number 3. He is consistent. Still orb changer, a little bit of orb reliance, so there's always going to be that, but he's still doing it consistently, and now he's doing it better because it doesn't need as many orbs as he needed before. He is one of the most versatile units in the game. Any unit you can throw a Pure Saiyan, any unit you can throw Movie Hero, any unit you can throw DB Saga, any Exploding Rage, right? Bond of Friendship, Earthbred Fighters, right? He is probably one of the most versatile support units in the game. Giving that extra damage reduction support adds even more to it. In terms of power, I mean, he's okay. I mean, offense, he's throwing out 35, 40 million supers with good amount of orbs. I mean, for an orb changer, that's pretty darn good. So, given all of that he's doing, like, it's really the support for me that pushes him this high up, which again moves a lot of this list down just a little bit. And don't fret, because things are going to change here in a minute. So that moves everybody down there. But I do think that that is enough to put him at 3, what he's doing there. So that brings us to the Saiyan Day unit. Where does the Saiyan Day unit Kid Goku fall? He is consistent. He is launching, you know, around 4 supers per turn pretty often. He has a 55% chance to crit, and once that 55% chance to proc, he's going to hit it all the time. Dodge chance is a little low, but then again, it's not really necessary considering he is stacking attack and defense. That combined with the built-in crit makes him incredibly powerful. Then he's got guard and extra damage reduction. It makes him an untouchable monster of a little kid. Like, I cannot explain how good he is here. And for that, he deserves spot at number 1. And so what that's going to do is actually push a lot of units down. And again, don't worry, we're not going to be doing too much here. So now we have the setup. So now it's time to move different units around based on the evolution of the meta. So the evolution, the meta has moved far past short events. So for this list, which is our more red zone oriented list, Goku is actually off the list, right? The fights are just too long for him to find viability. He can be a useful option in the 3rd slot once you get to those later fights, especially since he's going to be mostly protected by the other units, but he's not doing anything much for the team at that point. Majin, Kid Buu, same thing, right? These guys actually are moving more down below here for me, simply because they just, I mean, for a lot of these new fights, you need these 220% teams to take them down. Not to say it can't be done with a 200% or even characters on a 170, but them being so much reliant on characters that were just barely passable in the previous meta makes it much harder to rank them in the current meta. And with that, I had previously, in the previous meta, had Daima Goku at number 6. And I know that that's a little crazy, right? But I think now he's actually up more. I would actually have him here below, next to Kid Goku. And that's, again, for the same reasons that I have Kid Goku where he's at. And that is because of the support, right? That support is just so good that he's providing. And in the current meta, where pretty much the only fight that's an issue for him is the STR Jiren, because it cancels dodge. The other fights are a non-issue. Int Jiren, actually, he can tank the normals in Int Jiren, which also cancels dodge before you get to the AGL phase. So he can't tank the super, but he'll tank normals there. And at that point, he's pretty much protected by the other major units on that team anyways. So he's really just that good. He's in a much better place than he was before. I'd argue he's in a better place than Glorio, but Glorio is still doing all the things that he did before. I don't really see a reason to move him anything below number 2. Okay, and with that, moving up, I actually do think Daima Vegeta, based on the movement of this list, belongs over here at number 5, based on the previous list. Moving up, right, we're going to move these guys up a little now, and move Tech Vegeta up, and move Buu off, and Buhan and Slug down, right? Just because in the current meta, they don't really have a decent place. Buu is still good enough to rank at 6. He's still stacking, he still provides the fight, and in fact, longer fights only benefited him more, but not enough that I would say that it pushes him, past the top 5. Vegeta, currently as a new TUR, is still here at 5. This guy is kind of more in an honorable mention section. He's still really, really good, but he doesn't really have a place currently on many of his teams. So that's kind of why I'm moving him off compared to the other units here. So it's kind of crazy to see how much the meta has shifted, right? I tried really hard not to keep any 2 units super close together here, but I feel like this is pretty good for the current meta, right? This guy, he's not moving much, right? And he gets to kind of keep his position, because once you get that transformation, just like the grade 8 Vegeta, he is an excellent tank. Not as much as in slot 1 as he was before, but on a lot of the other teams that he's on, especially because the big team is very Majin Buu Saga heavy still, and you'll easily have a Vegito on each rotation. He's still doing what he does, and he's still doing it well, so he still gets to keep in at number 4 because he's still tanking every major super in the game. So kind of comfortable with this list for the red zones. Honestly, I could see moving these guys above Int Buu, but I do think they're kind of around here. They're really good, but I don't think that they're passing anybody up here, even this guy. And I know that's a little bit of a hot take there, but I do think that this Tech Majin Vegeta is still really, really good, and I think he's starting to get a little bit underrated, and people are forgetting how good he was defensively. Vegeta actually gets to, compared to the other units I had him with, Vegeta actually gets to keep his placement because longer events obviously benefited them. Buhan, and actually I would probably put Buhan above Slug right now. Buhan is, I mean, these guys, just by nature of being some of the last Dokkan Fest TURs, and I'm trying not to clutter up with the super easies, are kind of just still in here by default. They're still really good. They're just, I mean, especially Slug, right? We just need a couple more good demonic power allies, and possibly even just like a good, maybe a good 220% for like Terrifying Conquerors or something, and he could slot in pretty well there. So they're still kind of there. They're still very useful. They're still very good in a lot of these fights. They just aren't passing out any of these guys up here. So that's the red zone list. Now, for the battle-hardened formidable foes, I'm actually just going to completely throw everyone out the window here, and I'm just going to throw out top 5 units for that fight, because I feel like we don't have enough TURs right now to currently say definitively a good top 10 list. So I'm just going to show you, for now, 5 units that are good in the fight, that are going to be the most helpful as TURs. So number one most helpful unit in Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. And again, I know people are going to call me crazy for this one, but I will stand by it. Daima Vegeta is actually one of the most helpful units for this fight. Followed up by Daima Goku. They are probably two of the best TURs currently for this fight. Dokkan Fest including easy A's. Followed up here next by Glorio. Glorio actually gets moved down in this because several of the fights have AoEs, especially in the final phase, and they are a death sentence to Glorio. And so that's kind of why I put him below this, right? These two don't have that much problem. Goku's dodge chance is a lot better. This dude can pretty much tank them in slot 1, so they're not really an issue for him. If you guys watched my video on them, the team that you run this guy on is near unkillable with the partners that he has on it. Another good unit still here is Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He is a lot better in this fight than the other units are. Than a lot of other units are. So I definitely throw him up there. And then finally, the number 5 unit for Battle Hardened Formidable Foes is actually Kid Goku. It's a little crazy, but right, he is a stacker. He's not really designed for this event, but he can work in the event. Actually, I would probably have him above Goku, right? He can still tank pretty good, but his turn 1 is pretty rough in the Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. It's good. The earlier stages he can do pretty well in, but the later stages, especially like when you get to Cell, well, actually Cell Max he kind of does well, and because of type advantage early on, but like Broly he kind of has a bit of a struggle with. But once you get past that to the turn 3 and beyond, he's fine. He's golden, especially once you activate his active skill that early and get that extra defense. So that is that is kind of just like the top 5 units for Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. Like I said, TURs are really not in a place just yet to make a proper short versus long tier list compared to the LRs, right? There's so many different LRs, and there were some clear delineations in part 1 and part 2 of the anniversary that made it easy. TURs still just aren't in that place here. As the year evolves, we definitely may be able to change that, but for right now, this is where we're at. So the last thing I want to leave you with is some honorable mentions for Festival of Battles, right? And these guys don't really get any points on a list for being here, but they definitely are good. Scouter Vegeta, Tech Trunks, and Int Broly. We ran these 3 units here, and actually for that matter, Tech Ultimate Gohan. Where's he at? He's here somewhere. Tech Ultimate Gohan, right? These 3 are honorable mentions for Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. They aren't really doing much in the red zones. Vegeta, a little bit better, right? In fact, I'd probably put Vegeta here. But Vegeta, a little bit better, but these other 3 are struggling a little bit in some of the red zones. So, they get honorable mention that they are useful tools for Festival of Battles, but I'm not really using that for their ranking. So, guys, that is it for the video. That is our TUR tier list. I know this might ruffle a bit of feathers, but I put a lot of thought into this, and I kind of stand by my decisions. I could definitely see some shifting around. Like, honestly, I would even put swap this if I had to, and be pretty comfortable with that there. In fact, this whole row, I think you could probably, swap back and forth from 4 to 6. I think there's a good argument for any one of them in their places. 7 and below, again, I think just removing super easy A's is probably why these guys are here where they're at, because honestly, if we included them, I think Buhan and Slug would probably Buhan, Slug, and Vegeta would probably be off if I did include them, but I could definitely see an argument for a few of them in there. So that's it for the video, guys. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let me know, what would your top 10 tier list look like? And would you include a a column for short event characters. I think it's necessary to see both here. I still don't think TURs are in a good place to make that full assessment just yet, but as the year evolves, so will they. But let us know your thoughts and your list in the comments down below. As always, try to provide your best, your best explanations. Don't just sit there and call anybody else's list bad without providing your own and your reasons why. I think that makes for a healthy discussion. So if nothing else, guys, thanks for watching, and aloha.